This video is going over building Java programs. This is chapter 15 about implementing your own Java collections class, exercise 15.10 longestSortedSequence. So we've got a sequence here, and they want to figure out what is the maximum length of sorted numbers here. Now, it's a little bit more complicated than what you've seen before. It's not a simple maximum value, for example. It's actually, it's harder than that because we have to find all of the sorted sequences in here. So like here's a sorted sequence, but it ends here because then it goes down. Here's a sorted sequence, but then it ends down. It ends here. We have to look at all those sorted sequences, and then we have to find which is the shortest one. It could be an n-squared solution if you tried to iterate all the possibilities, but really it's an order n problem. We only have to look through the list once if we're careful about it. So what I've done here is I've laid out, first of all, just a little bit of comments on how this works. So here's the list that they gave us up here, and I've listed down here what you should be doing in terms of counting to find the longest list. So you take each element one at a time, and you see if the next element is greater than the current element. And if so, you just keep on incrementing. When we get here, we realize, oh, that's it. It's over. So we want to record the longest length we've seen so far, 3, but then we need to start over. So we're starting over at 1 here, and then this is greater, so that we're 2. But then this is less, so we need to compare to see whether 2 is greater than 3. It's not, so we're just going to discard that amount, that number. We're starting over again with 1 here, and then we see, oh, that's going down, so we got to restart with 1 here. Now we can go 1, 2, 3, and actually 4. So now we're actually going to store 4 as the longest sequence. And then finally, we just have a 1, and so we want to discard that 1. We want to take the maximum value at the end. So I've got some pseudocode that'll accomplish that there. So you have 2 different counters you need to keep track of. You need to keep track of what's the length of the current sequence. That's these numbers that you see here. Then the second thing is you need to keep track of what's the longest sequence. That's what you see over here. So 3, we tried 2, that didn't work. We tried 4, and that did work. And then we tried 1, and that didn't work. And at the end, you're going to have to return the maximum of the longest and the current sequence. That's what happens here. So this is the current sequence, 1. And this is the longest sequence. So you want to take the maximum of whatever that last one is and the longest sequence. So what we're going to do is we're going to loop through the element data. If 2 items are sorted, you want to increment the counter. Okay, that's what we showed here. Otherwise, you have to take the maximum of the longest, this, and the current, this. And in this case, the longest was this one. In this case, the longest is this one. And then after that, you need to reset the sequence. After we get to that point, we always reset the sequence to 1. And there's also one little thing you got to check to make sure it's on a 0 length input. If it is, then you can't be comparing more than one object, right? So that's pseudocode for what you need to do. So the trick here is you have to have 2 counters that you're running along, and each time that you reset the counter, you have to check to see what's the maximum. But you have tools to figure out what the maximum is. You have tools to look down the element list. If you haven't already, you should take a look at my video for 15.5, and I show you how you manipulate the array int list so you can walk through these elements. So hopefully you found that useful. Please like and subscribe.